Perfect. Well, it's 5:30, and I would like to call the Thurston Conservation District Board of Supervisors August 26, 2021 board meeting to order here. Welcome, everybody. For the record, at this point, we have Supervisors Betsy DeVreda, Helen Wheatley, Doug Rushton, and myself, TJ Johnson, Chair. We have staff members, Sarah Moorhead, our Executive Director. We have Leah Kellogg. We have our legal counsel, Ben Cushman from Deschutes Law Group. And it looks like we also have Elena Reynolds from the Department of Ecology here at this point. So welcome, everyone. Sarah, is there any indication that David won't be joining us tonight?
He just joined.
Okay, perfect. Welcome, David. So we have everybody here. That's great. The next item up here on our agenda is a review. We have made one change, actually three changes to this agenda since it was sent out. And that is under item 6 down here, governance, those 3 riparian contracts that Sarah sent out earlier. We put those as separate action items here, 6A, 6B, and 6C, since we as a board have not had a chance to talk about them or ask any potential questions. I was not comfortable putting on consent, so we'll deal with them under governance. So with those changes, is there any other changes either from staff or board?
Mr. Chair, I would also like to add something to governance, and that is a very, very brief discussion on a potential resolution, which we haven't talked about before, and that would be on possibly recommending that WACD establish a sustainable funding committee.
Okay, let's add that as, let's put that between item E and item F under 6. WACD resolution. Thank you, Doug. Any other changes to the agenda? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve our revised agenda.
I so move.
Moved by Betsy. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Helen. We will do a roll call vote on the agenda. Betsy?
Aye.
Helen?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We have approved our agenda. Next up is the consent agenda. We have 5 items on consent tonight. We have the minutes from our July 13th work session. We have the minutes from our July 22nd board meeting. We have the August 2021 financial report. We have fiscal year 2022 shellfish cost share addendum. And we have 2021-2023 cluster engineer interlocal agreement. So with that, I'll entertain a motion on our consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Moved by Betsy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by David. Roll call vote on consent agenda. Betsy?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Helen?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. We have approved consent agenda unanimously. Thank you all. That takes us to item 4, public comments. I don't see any members of the public on our participant list here, but if there is someone out there, this is the time that we have made available for the public to address the board on items of interest to them. So is there anyone that wishes to address the board this evening? Hearing none and seeing no one from the public here, we will close public comment and move on to item 5, our partner reports. 5A is the NRCS report. Robin is not with us tonight, but he did submit a report in writing earlier, or maybe last week even, which Sarah sent to us. And then also as a reminder, Robin will be joining us at our September work session to share with us a little bit more in-depth about the work of the NRCS. So that moves us to 5B, the Washington State Department of Ecology report, and Elena is here with us tonight. Hello, Elena. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, TJ. I have just a quick report that we are pleased to welcome a couple more environmental non-point specialists to our non-point team here in our Southwest region. Their positions will incorporate Thurston County into their regions of speciality. One, Hannah Coe, comes from the Okanagan Conservation District, where she worked as a conservation planner. And Heather Pat was an environmental senior scientist from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality's Division of Water Resources. So we will have them onboarding this coming beginning of the month. So starting in September. And I also wanted to give you all a quick reminder, just to all of our partners, that our water quality grant applications are open in our Eagle website, and the deadline for those is October 12th. Our non-point summary update has links as well as contact information for Leanne Whitesell, our regional funding coordinator, if you have any questions regarding those. Other than that, I've had a couple ERTs, our environmental reporting tracking system, where we allow reported concerns to be input, and our networks are utilized in order to connect and coordinate with our local partners and other partners and agencies in order to respond to such things. And we are working with the county health department to respond to one of them. I think that is all. If you have any questions, please let me know. I believe you have my contact information if you think of something later. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions from board or staff about Elena's report? Okay, I don't hear any, so thank you very much. That takes us to 5C, the Washington State Conservation Commission report. I don't see Jean on the call here or on the meeting here with us this evening. Sarah, is it possible that you could follow up with Jean and maybe get something in writing if there's anything for her to report and get that out to the board?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I will pass along, that Jean shared. Her time focuses on districts that need the most support, thereby giving us a compliment saying, you guys are doing great and you don't need me as often. So she doesn't plan to attend as often. But yes, I will definitely follow up and make sure that if there are updates or information that we need to know, we will share that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Then the last two partner reports are WACD and NACD. Doug gave us fairly lengthy written reports this time for both of those. Doug, was there anything that you wanted to add to your written reports?
Yeah, first I'd like to apologize. I don't like to have them that long, but I couldn't see rewriting the things and trying to summarize it, so I sent you what I had already. I would like to let you know that the Southwest Area Meeting will be a virtual meeting sponsored by the Grays Harbor CD, and it will be on October 13th. Again, that's virtual. And then the 2021 WACD Annual Conference is going to be a hybrid this year. The first few weeks of November will be virtual sessions with various programs presented. And then right after Thanksgiving, when we traditionally have our meeting, we'll have the actual business meeting. It will be in person on November 30th at the Hotel Murano. And part of the thinking there was it'll keep us from forfeiting our deposit there. And there'll be more information coming on that. And I will add a little bit about the Conservation Commission. Carol Smith, as I think you know, has notified the commission that she's going to retire at the end of the year. her last working day will be October 22nd, and she'll be taking leave for the rest of the year. And there's a couple of in-house candidates, and then who knows how many others. Dean Longry, the current chair of the commission, will be is overseeing that process. So I think the idea is to have an interim for at least a few months, so there's overlap with Carol, and then the final thing in October. And that's it, if there are no questions.
Thanks, Doug.
I see Betsy hand up.
Go ahead, Betsy.
Yes. Doug, I wondered if you've heard anything about the feedback that was given regarding the elections and whether this idea to go to either 4-year or 6-year terms has been, do you know anything about the inside scoop on that?
No, they've not. I think they're processing the stuff right now, and it'll probably be at the area meetings where they'll have a rollout of that. I will tell you that we're having, I should have mentioned this during the NACD part, this weekend, it's actually Monday, the 30th and the 31st of August, will be the Pacific/Southwest NACD area meeting in Jackson, Wyoming. I'm going to the thing. I'm kind of not looking forward to it because COVID's, I think, more prevalent now than it was a few weeks back. So I'm a little nervous about that. But I will be giving a presentation on marketing, how we sell our CD ideas. And Jackson, Wyoming's a nice place.
Okay, anything else for Doug? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Betsy.
Just be safe.
Yeah, they're going to think I'm awful snobbish when I stay away from everybody else.
Okay, thank you, Doug. That then concludes partner reports. That moves us to item 6, governance. What I'd like to do with these first 3 items is take a motion on the contract, then we'll discuss anything once we have a motion on the floor, and then take action one by one. So first up here is the Thurston County subrecipient agreement for Chambers Ditch. Is there a motion on that item?
I move to approve that item, the item for Thurston County subrecipient agreement on the Chambers Ditch.
Okay, it's been moved by Betsy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I think I got Doug in there first, just by a hair. Okay, any questions or discussion on that contract?
Well, I'm just a little curious about the property for that Chambers Ditch one. Is that still being used as ag land? That particular property that what was his name, Mr. Allen, or?
Yeah, so a lot of these are active working operations that we're planting riparian buffer for water quality. Yeah, to prevent stormwater runoff. That's sort of the funding program that this is under, which is that National Estuary Program grant, their stormwater initiative to prevent runoff for water quality. And the top 2 Chambers Ditch and then obviously titled Deschutes River are both in the Deschutes watershed.
Okay, anything else on the Chambers Ditch contract? Okay, then we will move to a roll call vote. Betsy?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. We've approved that contract. Moves us to 6B, the Thurston County subrecipient agreement for the Deschutes River. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval of the sub-agreement on the Deschutes River.
Okay, moved by Doug. Is there a second?
I second it.
Seconded by Betsy. Questions or discussion on this contract?
We've had several NEP contracts in the past, and these are pretty typical of what we've had, and they've been successful. So I'm looking forward to great stories.
Okay, with that, we will move to a vote on the Deschutes River contract. Doug,
Aye.
Betsy,
Aye.
Helen,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
chair votes aye. We have approved that agreement. That takes us to 6C, the Thurston County subrecipient agreement for McLean Creek. Is there a motion on that agreement?
I'll motion to approve the McLean Creek agreement.
Moved by David. Is there a second?
Oh, I get a second this one.
All right, Helen gets a second. Questions, comments, or discussion on the McLean Creek agreement? Okay, we will move to a roll call vote then. David,
Aye.
Helen,
Aye.
Betsy,
Aye.
Doug,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. We have approved the McLean Creek subrecipient agreement. That takes us to item 6D, an update on our Conservation and Education Center. I assume that's you, Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a little bit of information and a question for the board on this one. Now that we are under contract, staff are working to aggregate a variety of types of information that our consultant has requested that will sort of lay the foundation for them to build upon as we're assessing our true needs for a new facility and opportunities that might exist. We started with that great sort of needs document that we've kept updated over the years. And of course, with expertise in this area, our consultants have provided us with another list of things that they'd like to see if we have information on. So staff is working to compile all of that for Beckwith Consulting, and then they will synthesize that, look for gaps in that information, and that will help drive a lot of the sort of kickoff meeting with board and staff at the district. That first sort of kickoff meeting is the area I'd love to focus some conversation on. They would love to meet as early as mid-September and do a session with the board and a session with the staff. We put into contract that ideally, if feasible, this would be an in-person meeting so that we can meet face-to-face and begin developing relationships with each other, since we're going to work on this project for a while. If not feasible, we can absolutely host that virtually. There is a definite low-tech option. I confirmed that we can do it outdoors, undercover. So there's not a high technology need there for us that would require us to be indoors. So I would love to hear from the board. They threw out initial dates of September 16th and 17th. It's a Thursday, Friday. And said they could extend from there based on what the board's availability was to schedule that initial date. And then if the board is feeling that you would prefer an in-person outdoor meeting or a virtual meeting to sort of kick off this project and go through our needs assessment. There'll be some facilitated questions, and this will be an opportunity to share individually and collectively your visions for this center.
Okay, so let's take those two pieces one at a time if we could. We'll take the dates second. Let's take the first part of that, which is the question about our comfort with an in-person meeting versus a virtual meeting, and where how folks are feeling about that.
I guess my I would rather wear masks so that we can be close enough to hear each other. I'm concerned if we try to spread out however many of us there will be by 6 feet, it might be difficult to hear outdoors. But I'm willing to try to meet outdoors.
Yeah, this is Doug. I'm willing to try to meet outdoors too. it'll be 2 weeks though, since I've gone to Jackson, and if I get anything there, I would bringing it back to people within the 2 week period. So that gives me some pause.
Well, assuming that we go with those dates, and we'll come back to the date question in a second, but that's a fair point, Doug.
I'm good with in person.
Yeah,
Ellen?
yeah, I am too.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be willing to meet outdoors as well. So I think we're all on the same page there. Just curiosity, Sarah, did you have any particular place in mind for an outdoor meeting?
Yeah, I think that I would probably look for some of our, because, weather, as we're getting later into September, I would look to see if we could have a covered space available. We've got a couple of parks that are quieter and have less traffic in the area that I would look to use maybe their covered facility. Tumwater Historical Park has a covered facility. And there's, some south of the office as well. So sort of seeing what their rental, when we choose a date, looking at what their rental options would be to secure that, to make sure that we had the space reserved for the day. And then, go from there. But ideally somewhere that has a covered space so we could account for rain. The other thing I would also note is that, this will proceed as Plan A, in-person meeting. However, if someone can't attend an in-person meeting but can attend a virtual meeting, we'll switch the meeting to all virtual, because since we'll be outdoors and in the field, it may be challenging to have a hybrid meeting. So that would definitely be my recommendation, is everyone in person or everyone virtual. And so we can have that as a plan B moving forward.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I'd also throw out as an option, there's a very nice, pretty quiet shelter at Priest Point Park that you can get through the city of Olympia. And on a weekday, it's pretty quiet over there.
That sounds great.
And then the other thing, I think, maybe it's obvious, but I'll state it anyway, is at the rate that this Delta variant is happening, we may or may not even legally be able to have an in-person meeting outdoors at that point. So we'll just have to stay flexible and see how this thing develops. Now let's move to the second part of the feedback Sarah's looking for. So they proposed a couple of dates here: Thursday, September 16, or Friday, September 17. And let's see where board folks are on those potential dates. And before I do that, Sarah, was there a time frame? Are we talking about an evening meeting or a midday meeting, or is there anything about that?
They have complete flexibility for those 2 days that they've proposed. I would note that if the board chooses a very early meeting or a very late meeting, we're likely to incur more cost, just because the consultants may not travel. They may choose to stay down here because they do live further north in the state. So if we choose, a late morning or a, mid-afternoon meeting, they'll likely just be down for the day.
Okay. And what's the expectation in terms of time frame for the meeting?
Sorry, trying to make sure I'm not on mute. So that is to be determined a little bit based on the amount of information that we provide. I haven't seen an official framework, a meeting agenda, for example. It would be probably about 2 to 3 hours with the board. So yeah, and then there would be a separate session for the staff.
Okay, great. So a couple, 3 hours, September 16 or September 17. So let's talk about availability from board members for those dates.
I have a question on my calendar for the 17th. I have 9 to noon. There's a transfer of development rights meeting that Sarah is attending, and I was interested in finding out if I could attend. So I guess that's a 2-part question. Are you attending that, Sarah?
Yes, I am attending that. Thank you, Betsy. I closed my email calendar to open our network. Yes, so that would not be a good time frame in the morning on that day. And yes, you are also welcome to attend. I'll make sure that you're registered for that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
This is Doug. I will point out on the 16th, there's a Conservation Commission meeting all day. I also, besides that one starting at 8:30, I have a 9 o'clock forestry NACD meeting and a 9 o'clock forestry urban meeting. And then there's a 2 p.m. South Sound Green meeting.
So Doug, are you committed to all of those meetings on the 16th?
In the morning, I am.
Okay, so you'd be free in the afternoon?
Yeah, I'll have to miss the South Sound Green. I mean, that's the least painful one, I think.
Okay. So you're good the afternoon of the 16th. Betsy is good the afternoon of Friday. Are you okay on Thursday as well, Betsy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Thursdays are bad for me, just in general. So the 16th would be tough unless it was in the evening. That leaves the 17th. I'm pretty wide open.
Okay. And Helen?
I'm good either day,
Okay.
as far as I know.
I'm not available at all on the 17th, and my availability on the 16th would be between about noon and 3 p.m. But it sounds like that may not work for you, David. Okay. So I'm not seeing any time when all 5 of us can be there on the 16th or the 17th. Should we go back to the consultants with some alternative dates and times, or does that make the most sense at this point? Because I do think it would be valuable for all of us to be there.
I think it would be essential for the whole board to be there. So yes, I'm happy to send out a doodle poll to collect availability of the board that week and maybe the following 2 weeks, and then to make sure that everyone's there, and then we can give the consultants sort of a list of dates that the board is available, and that will help them with scheduling. They definitely noted that they're willing to accommodate, be flexible, so no problem there.
Okay, great. So so we can at least tell them we're interested in an in-person outdoor meeting, and we'll get a doodle poll here shortly, and then hopefully be able to nail down some dates from that. Is there anything further on this topic that you needed tonight, Sarah?
No, I think that's great. I will send that doodle poll out tomorrow. So be looking for that. If you could fill that out as soon as possible, then we can nail down that scheduling. That would be wonderful.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then let's move on to item 6E, the Conservation District Climate Auditor Cluster position. As you recall, we've been asked for some feedback from Allison at the commission about the creation of a new position that would be shared amongst districts that would help districts work on climate-related issues. And I think the intention here is to gather some feedback about what we think about that idea and any concerns we might have that then can be transmitted back to Allison and the commission. Is there anything in terms of additional background that you wanted to say, Sarah?
I would just like to offer that I got a little bit of an update on the development of this for the meeting tonight. There hasn't been any more momentum yet on developing that position or looking at areas or geographies that would be best to house those positions. But Allison did say to expect a bill likely during this next session, this upcoming session, related to this work that would further define that program and ideally, include some funding as a component of that to pay for these positions. So that might be something that the board also, if you're interested in this work, wants to follow and support through the session.
Okay.
I might have missed it, but could you flesh this out a bit? Like, is this related to kind of carbon sequestration issues, or is it a broader conception of what a climate auditor might do?
Yeah, I don't know that there's a very specific level of detail to this yet. I think that that's something that there are multiple stakeholders, including the commission, working on this concept. The idea would be that it models our cluster engineering model, right? And has a couple of districts that take leadership roles on addressing climate issues. As far as if that is specifically related to carbon sequestration, I think that's a main driver in it. But from there, how broad of a climate focus can that be? I'm really interested in, because there are certainly a lot of other climate mitigation and adaptation issues that we face in areas of work and need in our communities. So yeah, I think that may be the driving funding source for this.
The carbon counting.
Yeah.
You think? Yeah. I mean, because I was going to try to have a conversation with you about this anyway, but the only reservation I might have about this position is if it's tied into some kind of a carbon trading concept that involves ag land or trees, then we might want to think about that. But the general idea of having more data, I'm always for more data and having somebody looking at the data and processing it for us.
Other thoughts from other board members?
I'd support this. I think just like Helen just said, more data, the better we are. So.
This is Doug. I would concur with that. It does strike me that we've got a whole lot of irons in the fire and a whole lot of subjects, and it's going to be interesting to see how we prioritize all this stuff.
Well, and I like the approach of the cluster position.
Yeah, I like this too. I have a couple of concerns, I guess. I guess the issue of carbon sequestration, I put that in the category, I guess, of, I don't know, it could be mitigation, it could be adaptation, both, but it points to my other concern, which is the term auditor strikes me as very passive. And what I'd like to see out of this position is not just helping maybe figure out how to do the accounting for some of this stuff, but some technical assistance and some development of some hands-on tools that might allow producers to engage in more mitigation on the front end through their operations, in addition to any adaptation and mitigation stuff that can be done on agricultural or forest soils long-term. So the term auditor just kind of bugs me. It sounds like a bean counter, and I'd like to see something a little bit more action-oriented. But the general concept, I think, is a good one, and I like the idea of sharing the resources among districts the way we do with the engineering clusters.
I think that's a good concept you picked up on, TJ. Auditor, to some people, smacks of enforcement, and we're not enforcement oriented. It's like, okay, we audited you and we found out there are these errors, now you got to go fix it. So calling it something different, but doing the same type of stuff of data gathering would be good, I think.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to I'm just concerned that, yeah, with the concept of an auditor, it may be very much focused on, again, if it's not explicitly carbon trading, it might be about how to count greenhouse gas numbers or something like that. And it may be geared towards helping landowners to get credit for what they do, but I get concerned that the real goal is healthy, to try to have healthy soils and healthy forests and healthy farms. And if we get a little too wrapped up in the carbon counting, that can actually lead us away from that. So I agree with you. I'd like a different title, and I'd like to hear more of the discussion about how this is being conceived as it moves forward.
So if I could try to summarize it, it sounds like our feedback to the commission would be, we like the concept. We have some concerns about the word auditor, and we need to know more about really what the scope of the position is. But we're generally supportive of them continuing to flesh this out, and I would go so far as to say seek some legislative authority and funding to do this kind of work. Is that a fair statement on behalf of the board?
Yeah, and I think we should emphasize more the scope of the work. The title is, call it whatever you want. We need to get action. We can't just keep counting it and saying, oh, we have another year and a half to get this. We need to, like you said, front end load it.
I
So if
believe,
there's any way that can be included, that would be great.
Sarah, do you feel like you have sufficient sense of where the board's at to get some feedback to the commission on this?
yes, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you all. We'll then move on to the item we added here, 6F, a proposed WACD resolution on sustainable funding committee. You want to talk about that, Doug?
Yes, thank you. About 3 or 4 years ago, there was I think it was a survey where all the districts in the state were given the opportunity to comment on what they thought the most important issues were, and sustainable funding was one. We're in pretty good shape because we have the rates and charges. Some districts have assessments still, some have rates and charges, some have to follow the money and seek after grants each term. And I set in on the strategic plan draft for the Conservation Commission, and was aghast that they didn't have sustainable funding in there under governance or any other place that looked reasonable to me. So what I'm suggesting is I'll draft up a resolution suggesting to WACD that a sustainable funding committee be established. And with your all permission, I would shop that around to the other area meetings and get support there too. I do have a copy of an early draft into the WACD executive director, but have not heard back from him yet. But to me, the main thing is this is an express need, and the commission didn't even acknowledge it in their strategic plan. And so I'm thinking we need to push it some.
Good catch, Doug.
Okay, so process-wise, Doug, I think the next step would be for you to bring a draft resolution to, to our September work session that we can look at and then tee up for action at our September board meeting. Is that good with you?
Yes, and looking at the tentative work session topic list, I think we should consider other resolutions from other entities too, and that might be the time to talk about just a session on resolutions, the other ones, and our potential one.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. Let's add that as a topic to our September work session list. Thank you.
Thank you.
That then moves us to item 6G, November-December board meeting schedule. Sarah noted in the board packet that we have a couple of conflicts, and we also historically have done meetings a little bit different around the holidays. So I think the proposal that Sarah put forward is to combine our work session and board meeting in November and host that on November 18th. And then a normal work session December, whatever that would be, the second Tuesday of December, and then followed by a board meeting of on December 16th. I would like to actually make a further modification to that, which is to also combine our December work session and board meeting, since it was noted that there would be pretty tight turnaround between those two anyway. So that would have us just having one meeting in November on the 18th, one meeting in December on the 16th. Those meetings would be a little bit longer potentially, but it would be one meeting per month.
Sounds good to me.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. The meetings are going fairly rapidly, so even if we go for 2 hours instead of one, that's not a big increase, I don't think.
Sarah, from a staff perspective, is that okay with you?
Yes, that does sound good. On our end, there's a lot of process at the end of the year, so that will give us extra time to focus on tying up those bits and pieces. The one thing that I would offer to the board is as we get closer to the November timeframe, we will be wrapping up our collective bargaining process. There could potentially be a need to have a special meeting to have conversation with the board as part of that process in November. I don't anticipate that, but I just wanted to put that out there that if we have that contingency that a special meeting may be scheduled for time-sensitive business related to that, I think that works just fine for us.
Okay, that sounds good. So we'll consider that as direction from the board for our meeting schedules for November and December. Which moves us to the final item under governance, which is our work session topic list for the September work session. If we could put a draft of that up on the screen here, Sarah. There we go. So I think the only item we've added based on tonight's discussion is 6B, the resolutions. Well, I guess 6A and 6B, the resolutions for the area meetings and WACD. Was there anything else that folks wanted to add or any questions about this topic list? Looks okay as a draft starting point. Okay. Then we will run with that as our draft. Thank you. That then moves us to the item 7, the board supervisor reports. We'll start at the top of my screen here. Helen, do you have anything this month?
No, I don't have anything to report for this month.
Okay. David, do you have anything?
Sorry, yeah, I just update that I've been still going to the DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion committee meetings for the WACD. I actually had one just before this meeting today. Things still seem to be progressing well. I know we're working on a resolution to bring forward to everybody to kind of create a toolbox, I guess, for DEI for all the conservation districts to help understand what the process should be and things of that nature. So,
thank you. Betsy.
Nothing to report.
Doug?
Nothing. You've already heard the WACD and NACD stuff, and that's basically it.
All right, and I'll just note that the group that's working on the Olympia farmland stuff will be meeting again the first Tuesday of September. And so I'll have more details to report by our work session. With that, that concludes the supervisor reports. That moves us to the last item on our agenda, which is our executive director report. Sarah?
Thank you. I just have a couple of quick items for you. One is I wanted to thank TJ for hosting our board and staff outdoor summer gathering. It was a lovely opportunity to connect and meet new staff and new board members, and also look at the work we do on the ground in real time. Producers that are excellent land stewards, and being able to see some of those practices implemented. It was a wonderful opportunity. So thank you so much to TJ for hosting. The other piece I will mention is we had a newsletter article published in the Nisqually Valley News about our voluntary stewardship program. I will send the link out to you all so you can see it. It's a really great in-depth article about so many aspects of that program and how it's beneficial for both agricultural viability and for species conservation. So that was a great, that was some great coverage. You also saw the article in the National Woodland Landowners magazine that Doug and myself and Mara and Kiana on our staff worked to put together, and that was published again nationally. So some great TCD in the news. A reminder, I sent out our community awards program guidelines and nomination form. Please submit your nominations by the end of this month, August 31st. I have in my notes that Helen volunteered to participate on that committee. I thought I had recalled another supervisor sharing some interest, and I wanted to make sure that when I schedule that meeting, I don't leave anyone else off. Was there someone else who was interested in participating in the community awards nomination review committee? Great. Just double checking.
How long do you think that'll be a time commitment for?
I think probably, maybe an hour or 40 minutes worth of prior review, and then, maybe an hour to 90 minutes of conversation. I think because we're running a condensed timeline, we're likely to not receive an overwhelming amount of nominations for these categories. We are receiving them, which is great. So yeah, at this point, I think probably 3 hours total is sufficient for the whole meeting and prior work.
I can do that.
If you are interested, that's wonderful. I also, yeah, I appreciate that. We have 2 members of our staff that will be joining us as well. So I will make sure, Doug, that you're on that doodle poll as well as Helen to schedule that. So we'll meet after we receive all the nominations and give the committee some time to review. WACD also runs an awards program, and their deadline is October 29th. We'll plan, I'm sure, to submit dual awards, some of our landowners, to both programs. But I just wanted to make sure that the board had seen that information so we can nominate folks at the statewide level as well. And then finally, I wanted to share with the board, we had a strategic planning meeting between TCD and WSU Extension. We do kind of biannual strategy meetings between our organizations, and one of the I guess emerging topics or priority topics that we focused on is starting to create some joint framework around DEI, and particularly serving agricultural community, and make sure we're looking at providing resources to underserved populations. There's a lot of different complexities and issues within the agricultural industry, and so it's a great opportunity for us to partner together to make sure that we're bringing resources to underserved populations and within the industry. So more to come on that in the future, but yeah, a great
comment,
progress.
Sarah?
I'm sorry?
A comment. Could
Yeah.
you make sure that forestry is included in that?
Yes.
You mentioned agriculture several times, but not forestry.
Yeah, absolutely. Our local extension director is an ag faculty. And yeah, I'll make sure that is included in there, and maybe rope in Patrick Schultz too, because I think he would have a great perspective.
Yeah, good stroke.
Thank you, Doug. That's it.
Thanks, Sarah. One follow-up piece from the picnic here, the summer gathering. I believe it was Marguerite's daughter who was very sad that she lost her sunglasses and folding fan here. And I have located those. They've turned up on the property, and I'm wondering the best way to get those back to that little girl to make her happy. Should I just drop them by the office at some point and maybe drop them with Leah, or what's the best way to do this?
That's perfect. That would be perfect, TJ. Thank you.
Okay, I'll coordinate with Leah on that then. We'll make that girl happy and get her fan back to her.
I'll let her know now that it's coming.
Okay, thank you. With that brings us to the end of our meeting. So I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Moved by David. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Betsy. Roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned at 6:22 p.m. Thank you all for another productive meeting.
Thank you very much.
See you soon.